الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما مزيدا وبعد. أيها المؤمنون عباد الله، قال صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم من حديث سهل بن سعد عن النبي صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم قال: العجل من الشيطان، أخرجه الترمذي. وقال الحسن وضعفه على الباني في الضعيف الجامع 2300. The hadith that is under our discussion, or that we would like to discuss for today on this blessed day, is that the Prophet ﷺ is reported to have said, as it comes in Tirmidhi on authority of Sahl ibn Sa'd, that rushing is from shaitan. This hadith is collected by Tirmidhi, but Al-Albani made the hadith weak, but the meaning of the hadith is authentic. So today's khutbah is centered around this hadith, but from the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal, that the men are maintainers and protectors of a woman because of the virtue that Allah has placed of the men above the women, and because of the wealth that they spend on the women. Today's khutbah, ayyuhal mu'minun ibadallah, is about being men. Because from the last 5 years or 10 years into this time or more than that, in our Muslim community, we have been laxing as being men. But yet we quote the ayat of Allah Azza wa Jal, كَمَا جَاءَ فِي كِتَابِ الْعَزِيزِ, that men are maintainers and protectors of a woman. We quote the beginning of this statement, but Allah Azza wa Jal says, that He hath placed you above women because of the virtue of the status of the men and because of the wealth that you spend on the women. We have been quoting that we are men. And we always tell our wives and our daughters and our mothers and the disbeliever that we have men in Islam. But where are the men in our Muslim community? Where are the men? And we'll see by looking into these ahadith or kitab and sunnah that we have failed. We have failed to be men. So I say to myself and to everyone here, al-ajal min ash-shaytan, that rushing, it is from shaitan. Because the men always say that when a woman says something to them. You know, you have to do this, and you have to do that, and you have to do this. And the first thing we say, be patient. Al-ajala min ash-shaytan. Russian is from shaitan. Russian is from shaitan, as Sheikh Salih Fawzan explained. Russian is from shaitan is as it relates to the worldly affairs. You should not rush as it relates to the worldly affairs, but as it relates to your hereafter, you should rush. Kama qala Allah Ta'ala, وَسَارِعُوا إِلَى الْمَغْفِرَةِ وَالْجَنَّةِ عَرْضُهَا كَالسَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ أُعِدَّتْ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Hasten, rush, be quick, be fast to the forgiveness of your Lord. And its paradise is the size of the heavens and the earth, and it's only prepared for the individuals that have taqwa. Ayyuhal mu'minun ibadallah. We are in the month of Sha'ban, and the Prophet ﷺ used to increase in fasting, because that month that is right in front of us is Ramadan. And Ramadan is a month to prepare you for taqwa. Ramadan is for the men. Not only to prepare you for taqwa, we see the battles of the Prophet ﷺ. A lot of them were fought during Ramadan. So where are the men in our community? We are lacking as being men. But the first thing we need to reflect on, how do we be men? To teach our families about Tawheed and to run away from shirk. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, narrated by Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu an, ayyudham a'adham, what is the most wickedest and evil sin in the eyesight of Allah? Qala an taj'al lillahi niddan wa huwa khalaqa. Al-Hadith, muttafaqun alayh. That is, to make a partner with Allah, and He is the one that created you. So we should run away from shirk, the major forms of shirk, and we should run away the minor forms of shirk. Kama qala Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, inna akhwafa akhawfum alaykum al-shirk al-asghar al-riya. Akhrajhum Ahmad wa hasanu al-Albani min hadith Mahmud ibn Labid. That the Prophet ﷺ said what? That the thing that I fear my Muslim community from falling into is the minor shirk. So we have to be men. Ayyuhal mu'minun ibadallah. We have to be men first by teaching our family Tawheed and to run away from shirk. This is the meaning of the ayah. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qul anfusakum wa ahlikum nar. Oh, you believe, save yourselves and your family from the hellfire. وقال الله عز وجل في كتاب كريم إنما أموالكم وأولادكم فتنة وعند الله أجر عظيم فاتقوا الله ما استطعتم. Allah Azza wa Jal may mention that really your children and your wealth is a trial and tribulation for you. It's going to be a trial and tribulation for you when you're not being men. When you are not teaching them the obligation of Tawheed and to run away from shirk. The other obligation of being men, and where are the men in our Muslim community, is to maintain a relationship with our relatives, because that's building a community. That is building a community. Maintaining a relationship with our relatives, especially our mothers and our fathers. Did not the Prophet ﷺ, after Allah Azza wa Jalla explaining, Wahhaab Allah, I command you to worship Allah Azza wa Jalla alone, and to avoid the shirk, and to show benevolent treatment to your parents. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in many ahadith, he explained, and he gave us things to adhere to. And from this ayat comes a hadith. Inna Allah harma alaykum uquq al-ummuhat. That Allah Azza wa Jal have prohibited us from disobeying our mothers. Mothers. Our mother, our suckling mother, our grandmother, our great-grandmother. Allah Azza wa Jal have prohibited us from disobeying them. Did not the Prophet ﷺ also says, رِضِ اللَّهِ فِي رِضِ الْوَالِدَيْنِ وَسَخَطَ اللَّهِ فِي سَخَطِ الْوَالِدَيْنِ أَخْرَجَهُ التِّرْمِذِي. The Prophet ﷺ says, earning the pleasure of Allah is by pleasing your parents. And earning the displeasure of Allah is by displeasing your parents. How do you please your parents? You say nice speech to them. You call them to Islam. You be good in them as it relates to the action. You spend on your parents. And you are good to their friends. During this life, or even after they die, you're good to their friends. You are good to their friends. You give gifts to their friends. You speak to their friends. You call their friends. These are the men of Islam. These are the men of Islam. These are the men of Islam. Ajala min shaitan. Russian is from shaitan as it relates to the worldly affairs. As it relates to your hereafter, then you shall hasten to do the good, and Allah Azza wa Jalla will reward you. So therefore, one of the goods after worshiping Allah and avoiding the shirk is to be obedient to your parents and your speech and your action and with your wealth. And how many from amongst us that we know, our parents are still cooking for us. Our parents are still taking us different places. We're not the men of the Muslim community that Allah encouraged us to be men. We don't cook for our parents. We don't go visit our parents. We don't visit their friends. We don't give gifts to their friends. Where are the men of the Muslim ummah? Where is al-ajala min ash-shaytan? That rushing is from shaitan as it relates to the worldly affairs. As it relates to the deen, the hereafter, then you should hasten to show benevolent treatment to your parents. The other thing, you should show benevolent treatment to your children. Your children and your wealth and your wives are fitna or trial and tribulation when you are not teaching them Islam. When you are not being a man in Islam. When you're not being a man, when you're not providing for them, this when the problems come in. The Prophet ﷺ says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ حَرَّمَ عَلَيْكُمْ حُقُوقَ الْأُمَّهَاتِ وَوَدِّ الْبَنَاتِ. وَالْوَدِّ الْبَنَاتِ. Do not bury your children alive. Be men in Islam. Do not bury your children alive. وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم من حديث Abdul bin Mas'ud that we just mentioned, أيذم آدم أن تقتل ولد خشية أن يأكلوا معك. Then you kill your children because you fear they're going to share the same meal. Do we share our meals with our children? Or we go get our food and we go upstairs and eat it ourselves? And then, what's wrong with you? The child is hungry. Do we feed the children before we feed ourselves? These are the men of Islam. These are the men of Islam. They are sick. They are tired. They get up and they work. Not, baby, be patient. What is this? This is not the men of Islam. This is not the men of Islam. This is laziness. And this is why our Muslim community is at its low. Because we're not being men. Yes, you can walk around with all the muscles you want. You can bench press 350 pounds, 500 pounds. It doesn't matter. لَنْ يُنَالُ اللَّهُ لُحُومُهَا وَلَا دِمَاؤُهَا وَلَكِنْ يُنَالُ مِنْكُمْ التَّقْوَى. Allah's not pleased with you having big muscles. You having a six-pack. Allah's not pleased with all that. He's not pleased you come from this tribe and that tribe. Allah is pleased with you, taqwa. So the men of Islam have taqwa outside of Ramadan and increase during Ramadan. These are the men of Islam. These are the men of Islam. And teaching your children that we always mention, ما من عبد يستوعي رعية يموت يوم يموت وهو غاش لرعية إلا حرم الله عليهم جنة. That there is not a person that have children or have a wife or anyone that is underneath of them and you are deceptive as it relates to the Islamic education and providing for them and teaching them the do's and don'ts of Islam, and you are cheating them, go look at television. Go play outside. Go do this. And you're not educating them. You're not teaching them how to be men in Islam as it relates to worship. Knowing Allah. Making salat. Fasting. Trying to make hajj. Giving a zakat. You're not teaching them that in Islam, Abdullah bin Umar and Nu'man ibn Bashir and Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, they came to the Prophet ﷺ at the age of 14 and they wanted to fight in the jihad. And the Prophet ﷺ turned them away because why? They were too young. But the highlight and point, how did they know about fighting? Unless their parents had told them. We don't teach our children, we just teach them games, arcades. That's it. That's not being men of Islam. And your wives are not going to respect you. Your wives are never going to respect you. Your wives are never going to respect you. Even the men that have plural wives, and I encourage the one that have more than one wife, is good. Like Abdullah bin Abbas, radiallahu an, the best amongst our community is the one that have more than one wife. But that means responsibility. Being men! Being men! Not saying, won't you go down to the welfare? Won't you get... No, that's not being man. That's not being a man. Well, don't you have a house? Okay, well, you might as well. That's not being a man. You get a house, you have the money, that's a man. Not sleeping. Not being lazy. The electric is about to be cut off. Your daughters need shoes. They need personal things. Baby, won't you be patient? That's not being a man. Ajala min ash-shaytan. Yes. Ajala min ash-shaytan as it relates to the worldly affairs. As it relates to the deen, it's not from shaitan. You have to hasten for the forgiveness of your Lord. Allah is not going to ask you, you're not taking care of him. الرِّجَالُ قَوَّمُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ. Allah says that He has placed you above the women. Why? Because because you provide for them. You provide for them. They need things. You're not going to provide for them. You're just going to say, be patient. That's not a man. Look at our Muslim communities. We're failing. Because we don't have men in our community. I don't care if you got muscles. I don't care if you can bench press 350, 300, 500. That's not a man. A man is knowing his obligation of Islam. And then after that, teaching them how to be strong Islamically and physically. Yes, because they should have some strength. The Prophet ﷺ says, whoever have the capability of marrying, physically or financially, then let him get married. Yes, he have to have some strength, but that's not the focus. The focus is educating them about Islam. You doing your obligation and taking care of these women. Get them out the shelters. Make sure the lights don't cut off. Teaching them about their religion. Bring them back to the Masjid. These are the men of Islam. These are the men of Islam. Another thing is that we are failing. We're not intimate. We're not compassionate. We're not merciful to our wives. And these are the things that are making our Muslim community go down. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وبعد. Being men is treating your woman with kindness. Treating your parents with kindness. Treating your children with kindness. All of them is a tight-knitted community. During the days of the Prophet ﷺ, they used to live by one another. Did not the Prophet ﷺ says, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لجاره وأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. You will not truly believe until you love for your neighbor or your brother will love for yourself. The neighbors, they used to live together. The mothers used to live close. The fathers used to live close. The sons, the daughters, the cousins, all of them used to live close. That was your neighbors. How do we treat our neighbors? Whether it's our relative neighbors or other than that. The Muslim community is to be compassionate with these individuals. To be compassionate with them and to be compassionate with our brothers in Islam. And be hastened and run away from ghibah, backbiting and slander. Because the Prophet ﷺ says, أَتَذَرُونَ مِنْ غِيبَةٍ قَالَ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ أَعْلَمُ قَالَ ذِكْرَ أَخَاهُ بِمَا يَكْرَهُ قال فإن كون فيه ما أقول قال فقد اقتبته وإن لم تكن فيه فقد بهته أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Hadith من Abi Hurairah, and it's collected by Muslim. Ya Rasulullah, the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام says, should I not tell you about what is backbiting? He says, they say, Ya Rasulullah, tell us in other words. Do you know what is backbiting? They said, Allah and His Messenger knows best. Tell us. He says to mention your brother behind his back by something that he despised for you to mention. What if it's إِذَا رَأَيْتُ مَا أَقُولُ? What if it's that what I mentioned is in him? Then you have backbit him. And if it's not, then you have slandered him. The men is to stay away from that. Because we know being a man in Islam, al-Muslim, akhul Muslim, that the Muslim is another brother to another Muslim. So how he's going to be your brother? You are eating his back. You're talking bad about him. How is he going to be your brother? Sibab Muslim fasuq wa qitalahum kufr. Another thing the Prophet ﷺ says, fighting your Muslim brother is splitting from the obedience of Allah, and to curse him is splitting from the obedience of Allah, and to fight him is kufr. How you want to fight your Muslim brother? We have to what? We worship one God. We have all of the prophets. We believe in all of the angels. We believe in the same thing. How you going to fight your Muslim brother? How you going to curse him when the Prophet ﷺ says, ليس بالمؤمن طلعان ولا لنعان ولا فاحشة ولا بذيء. That the Muslim is not someone that curse and is not showing wickedness on his tongue or on his limbs. So therefore, we have to hasten to be men. And don't take the hadith, al-ajala min al-shaytan, even though the hadith is weak, but the meaning is authentic. Don't take that as an excuse. Be patient. We're not even men from the aspect of being intimate with our wives and being close to our wives. We're not even men. We're not men. We give all attention to outside and all of the neck exercise we want outside. But inside the house, we're losers. The hadith that we mention over and over and over again, the Prophet ﷺ was making i'tikaf, and his wife came to visit him while he was in i'tikaf. Do our wives come to visit us? Or if they do come to visit us, you know so-and-so said this, you know so-and-so. That's not the purpose. His wife came to visit him, and he put his head on her lap, showing the closeness. The Prophet ﷺ, while he was fasting, he used to kiss his wives, but he used to control himself. If you can't control yourself, don't kiss them. Showing the closeness. The Prophet ﷺ, before he entered the house, he used to use the siwak. The ulama used to say what? They're using the siwak is what? He used to use the siwak because he used to kiss his wife when he entered the house. Do we kiss our wives when we enter the house? The Prophet ﷺ says what? السفر قطع من عذاب يمنع أحدكم من شراب وطعامه ونومه. That traveling is a piece of the punishment because it prevents you from truly eating and truly drinking and truly sleeping. إذا قضى مهنته, and when you are finished your traveling, your business, فَالْعَجَّلُوا إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِ, then hasten back to your wives. The highlighting point, وَعَجَّلُوا إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِ, hasten, run back to your wives. We're not men of the community because we don't provide for our wives. She can't even beautify herself for us because we didn't leave nothing. She got to go borrow from her girlfriend. Isn't that aib? Isn't that shameful? She can't do her hair because what? You haven't provided for her. She can't beautify herself with the beautification that we like because you're not being men. You're not providing for her. You're not doing nothing. And if she good, you might give her $5. What is this? What is this? The one that wakes you up for fajr. The one that cooks your food. The one when you come in the house, she give you water. The one that is compassionate, teaching your children. You don't give her money. You don't provide for her. You don't take her for walks like the Prophet ﷺ used to take walks with his wives. Why are there men in our community? Be men. Go home and be men. Be men outside of Ramadan and during Ramadan increase. Be men. Because this is the thing that we're laxing in. And if we are not men, how can we call people to Islam? Being a man is controlling your anger. ليس الشديد بالسرعة إنما الشديد الذي يملك نفسه عند الغضب. وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا قتل أحدكم فيجتنب وجه. If you are angry, then control it. Because the one that is the strong believer is the one that can control his anger during the times of anger. And the Prophet ﷺ says, if you fight anyone, then do not hit them in the face. Then why are you hitting your wives in the face? Why are you putting a towel on your hand and you beating them in the ribs? Why? Is that a man? Is that a man? So be men. Be men in Islam by learning your obligation that you owe to Allah, and then the ones that come after Allah Azza wa Jal. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us men inside of Ramadan and outside of Ramadan. وصلى الله عليه نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا آخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين.